Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time posted by TheFavorite in the top right corner, playing the red Zerg. In our bottom left we have a giant Smurf, which would be the blue Protoss, and we're on Daybreak. Red versus blue. This is the ladder. The favorite, I believe, is in Masters, as is the giant Smurf, so we're going to see some great play out of both players, I'm sure. Daybreak, very well-known map, nice and common. Medium-sized ramp leading down to your natural, up to the dual pathways leading out from the natural. You've got the destructible debris and your moderate-sized choke there, but then a much larger pathway leading up to the third, or potential third, with even larger gap leading out to the common ground. I really like maps that have wide openings like this, that you can open up with the destructible debris, just because it allows the Zerg to get the surrounds, but then it also allows for Protoss and Terran to wall off behind that destructible debris, so it kind of creates a more three-dimensional field, a more dynamic field for the map. We don't see any early gas out of either player, neither player throwing down that first tech structure yet, but we do see that a giant Smurf has sent out his drone scout, which he doesn't quite understand why he did that, I guess. But with this first drone moving down, we can see both players are beginning to save up for that first structure, and we can see that a giant Smurf has thrown down a forge with that lower pylon placement. This is looking like a forge fast expand for him. He's still got that probe in position. This guy who was doing the harassment has thrown down a pylon to deny the favorite his preferred early expansion. We can see that whenever he lost that opportunity to throw down that expansion, he threw down a spawning pool almost immediately, get some early Zerglings out. He's might be concerned about some cannon rush out of the player, or he could be concerned that he's just going to fall behind in tech if he doesn't grab one of the two structures. The giant Smurf is throwing a probe down in the third position, just maybe considering throwing down another pylon there to deny the third, because a lot of players will send a drone down to the third and take their expansion there instead. It looks like a giant Smurf's probe is going to get pushed away by the favorite. He wasn't launching it just for a second, and he succeeds in getting down a hatchery. That's a good and a bad thing for the favorite. I mean, he gets his expansion down now, but Smurf knows exactly where that expansion is, and it's so much farther away from the home base where any units are going to be coming out. Hopefully, the favorite decides to get out some early Zerglings and take down this pylon and throw down his another expansion there, so that he can kind of shore up the gap in between the two structures and go for some sort of three-base play, like that three-base roach play that's just everybody's doing now because it's incredibly effective. Double gas coming down for giant Smurf. Forge is done, as is the photon cannon, so this wall off is looking increasingly sturdy. And the gateway, once it's done, we can expect to see a couple of units come out, maybe just a cybernetics core for that early stalker, or maybe a couple zealots to make sure that wall off is kosher. Hatchery finally started for the favorite. This guy's just about ready to pop, as those Zerglings have taken down that pylon, and we can see that the wall off is now pretty much complete, except for this small little gap for the cybernetics core. Nothing coming out of the gateway yet, meaning that a giant Smurf... Oh, nope, there goes the zealot. So the zealot will be used to complete that wall off for a giant Smurf. Totally standard at this point. With the double gas, we can expect Smurf to get more and more tech out. It'll be interesting to see what pathway he chooses, because Daybreak is one of those maps which really doesn't punish you for going one way or another, as long as you continue to work towards that massive army in the late game. You can see a starport coming down for a giant Smurf, or Stargate. Stargate, great choice. It's a huge map. Phoenix are so mobile; they can really just do some excellent damage to units, the probe lines. Because I mean, he knows that a favorite at least has this third up. He probably suspects, since that pylon went down, that the favorite grabbed this expansion also. So there's multiple probe lines for those Phoenixes to harass, and the mobility from the Phoenix makes it so that even if the favorite has a unit composition that's going to do damage to the Phoenixes, they can flirt from one place to another, and there's not much favorite can do against it except for get a bunch of expensive static defenses at each probe line. It looks like a Void Race coming out instead of the Phoenix. This is the other pathway that he could choose with that Stargate, and they're incredibly effective. Void Rays are very, very powerful, and they do quite a lot of damage, especially if they're used to take down queens and then work on the pylons. They're slower though, meaning that they're a little bit more vulnerable to mobile defenses, and their range makes it so they're a little bit better against static defenses. A couple Zerglings poke at the Stalker as an evolution chamber goes down. It looks like, actually I'm not sure if, no, the favorite does not know about the Stargate except for this Void Ray killing his Overlord, so now he does. But I'm curious as to why he decided to grab that evolution chamber. It's probably just part of his build, so that once he found out that air units were coming out, he could throw down that Spore Crawler. But that's good instincts. That's a sign of a solid build where it doesn't leave him completely defenseless against the airborne units. We can see that Void Ray is coming out. It looks like it's heading up to this main, and we only have a single queen, which is going to have a hard time against a Void Ray, especially if it stops to get fully charged on some destructible debris. A couple Zerglings have succeeded in pushing the Sentry and Stalker into a wall, but an excellent place force field means that only the Sentry is going to go down. Still, that's a loss. That's a lot of gas, and the longer those Sentries stay alive, the more energy can get accumulated on them. Multiple gateways coming down, and the robotics facilities finishing up that first observer. The Void Ray is coming in now to the third, which was really the first expansion, and it's kind of going to look at both places, see if there's any Spore Crawlers there. We do see one is being built. Is it up by the main? It's not. It is down here by the third. So the Void Ray, not looking what it sees, is going to pull back, meet up with the other ones, and we can see now the Phoenixes are being created. Phoenixes are great, especially one or two of some Void Rays. What they do is they pick up the queen, make it so that she can't fire up in the air, she can't transfuse anything, really make them defenseless against the Void Rays, which are doing the most damage. But we have one of my favorite unit compositions, the Roach Hydra. It's so hard to pull off, but when it does get pulled off, it is so intimidating, and it's awesome because it's very mobile, cheap, and it allows you just to constantly re-macro and bash into the opponent like just waves. It's awesome. I really hope we get to see some really cool play. Some Roach Hydra. Two Void Rays trying to make something work. The Smurfs kind of devoted a lot of resources to this airplay. Two Void Rays, two Phoenixes, just one Stargate, so that's not that expensive. But he needs to do some damage with them to make it cost effective. All that money could be spent building up more Immortals, going to Colossus tech. So unless these Void Rays do something, then we can actually count that as a loss. And as these Hydras more and more get on the field, and the creep has pretty much connected all structures together, then those Hydras are going to be able to reinforce any area of the base almost instantly. Two Queens push back the two Void Rays. It looks like multiple Queens coming up just to reinforce the area. This guy's got to be careful of the Observer. If he gets too close to the Spore Crawler, he's going to go down, and these Void Rays are going to poke down into the third, which is guarded by a single Spore Crawler and no Queens because they got pulled up to defend the upper area. Let's look at the main army fielded by a giant Smurf. Some Immortals, which are going to be awesome against those Roaches. Some Sentries and some Stalkers. Those Sentries force fields will be great against the Roaches also, just because of their range. But there's really no absolute answer against the Hydras right now, which can do massive DPS from a little bit longer range than the Roaches. And with the Roaches in the forefield taking all the damage, then these Roaches are going to be able to pick down. You can just see how those shields fall for the Void Ray. Run goes down almost instantly. Multiple Phoenixes are in a lot of trouble, but finally they succeed in picking up all three of the Hydras. These Queens going to work, keeping the transfuse on one of the Hydras to hold that Phoenix in position. So all the Hydras go down, but at the cost of a couple of Phoenixes and a single Void Ray. And we can see that the units lost tab is slightly favoring a Giant Smurf, but not by much. Same time, Giant Smurf has succeeded in taking his third and completing a wall off with the gateways. Great play here. Really prevents a run by from the Zerglings. Not 100% convinced that this is a tight wall and it might be a good idea to throw another pylon down on the corner, but it looks like it is, and I'm sure, you know, he's a master, so he knows what he's doing. At the same time, Favorites decided to build up enough of a unit composition to do some damage. again, a lot of immortals in this build are going to do a lot of damage to the roaches, but if they can take down this destructible degree and push in there and punish the surround on the Giant Smurf's units, then they definitely do more damage. Spore Crawler is not done. Queen was out of position. A couple of probes go down, but we can see 2 Spore Crawlers are being built up in the main to prevent that sort of harassment, and that is probably going to be enough to keep these Phoenixes honest for the time being. The favorite, not a lot of roaches in this army, a lot of very delicate Hydralisks, but they do quite a lot of damage very quickly. And it looks like Giant Smurf is having to pull back into this choke to take advantage of the fact that he can cut units in half with just a couple of force fields. If this destructible debris had gone down earlier, like I had mentioned, this combat would go differently. But as things are now, the handful of sentries there can really throw down a couple of force fields and just make it so that the favorite can't do as much damage as he wants. You can see he's only got 3 roaches in that, and he needs to reinforce. We can see 13 more being built, and another stream is coming in. But this is a bad thing for the favorite right here, are these 2 Colossus that are coming out of the field and the Thermal Lances, which is being built. That those Colossus are going to absolutely melt Hydralisks. They do so much damage, and their range is so good that they can kill the Hydras, which really like to bundle up and just expose themselves to the Colossus. One already on the field is beginning to work. Not enough roaches again in this army, and the force fields go down to really cut up. All these guys back here are pretty much useless. Some creep tumors have been dropped by the queens with the Overlord spewing creep. It's a great play. Makes some really gives the speed boost to the Hydras, which are so slow right now until Heart of the Swarm comes out. Unfortunately, this place gets completely cleaned up, and the resources losses swung heavily in the favor of a Giant Smurf. And it looks like he's preparing to take his 4th now. 4th has already been taken by the favorite, but he's kind of stagnant a little bit. I would have expected to see a 5th here, or maybe even up at the top. But like I said, it's so easy to re-macro. We can see quite a lot of roaches on the field. He's already back up to 170, almost a little bit ahead of a Giant Smurf in supply. Not as many Hydras this time. With those Colossus on the field, we might expect to see some Corruptors later on. I'm not sure there is a Spire. I don't think there's a Spire yet, but we can expect to see one in the future. Corruptors are definitely the best weapon to use against Colossus, just because their range is so much farther than a Hydra once that extended Thermal Lance upgrade hits. And you can see it already has its 9 range to 6. Yeah, so they've got so much range, and the DPS that they do to units that are clustered up like this is very, very extreme. You can see Zergling run by has made it into the base, and that was so kind of the favorite to show us exactly how he did get in. I didn't think that was tight. Some Zerglings come in. Looks like they've denied some of the mining there, but due to the oversaturation at this expansion, we could probably see those probes get transferred back in short order. Income still in the favor of the favorite. He's going to need that so that he can constantly re-macro. A little bit behind on the gas, but a lot of minerals there, so he can re-macro those roaches very quickly. As long as he keeps this engagement on the creep, as long as he keeps that wide arc so that he's doing quite a lot of DPS, pushing with his roaches forward, he's doing quite a lot of damage here. But those 3 Colossus with no Corruptors to take them out on the field absolutely destroys the roaches when they bunch up like that. And again, the engagement happens. We can see 23 roaches, 25 on the way, and when they pop, they might be able to do some damage. But again, this army is so terrifying, and all those engagements really haven't done anything. We can see a Spire finally being built, but it's in such an exposed area. Even if it does finish, it's going to go down so instantly. That hatchery does fall, denying that mining. It looks like the main is still mining slightly, but not a lot. The favorite decides to bow out to the Giant Smurf. It's such a intimidating force here. Those stalkers are really good against pretty much anything once that blink upgrade finishes. And like I said, the Colossus do a lot of damage against Hydras, and then the Immortals were a good answer against Roaches. So a Giant Smurf countering the Roach Hydra play pretty well with a very intimidating unit composition. Very effective with the Stargate. Completely lost track of the Phoenixes. I'm sure something happened to him somewhere, which was very fascinating. I apologize for missing that. anyhow, I appreciate you guys watching this. If you have a comment for me, you could leave it in the comment section. If you want me to cast a game, you could always message me. I'd love to do it. Thanks for watching, guys. I am Big and Scary. I will see you guys later.